Why, hello! Welcome to the show. I am Big Joe, your storyteller, and I'm here to tell you some stories today. I have some exciting stories. Our very first story today is going to be a story from Africa. It's a story about a turtle named Tricky. This story is called Tricky the Turtle and the Lion's Den, and this is Tricky. Hello, friends. Well, once upon a time, deep in the jungle, there lived a turtle named Tricky. Yep. And Tricky had a pretty good life. He had a lot of friends and he had a lot of good times, but all the big animals used to make fun of him. All the big animals would say, "Hey, look at you. You're just a little tiny turtle. You're not big and strong like all of us. You're not strong like lion. You're not mean like tiger. You're not big like elephant. You're just a little tiny goofy turtle." Now that wasn't very nice, and Tricky didn't like that at all. One day he decided he was going to play a trick on those animals and teach them a lesson. So one day, Tricky went on down to Lion's cave, and he hid behind some bushes, and he waited and he waited. And after a while, Lion left his cave to go get some breakfast. And when he did, Tricky crawled into Lion's cave. This is going to be funny. Well, he waited inside. Now, Lion's cave was very big and very deep and has a nice echo to it. And if you said something in Lion's cave, your voice would sound loud like this. And that's just what Tricky wanted. So he waited and waited inside that lion's cave. And after a while, Lion came back home. When he got home, he listened, and he heard something moving around in his cave. He looked inside, but he couldn't quite see. And Lion said, "Hey, who's in my cave?" And using the echo from the cave, Tricky said, "This is my cave now." And Lion said, "What? I'm Lion, and I have great big teeth to bite you." And Tricky said, "I eat lions." Said, "He eats lions? What kind of an animal eats lions?" He said, "Oh man, I better go call Tiger." So I ran off to go call Tiger. When he got there, Tiger was busy doing his nails. La 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 la. "Hey, don't look at my nails." And he told Tiger what was happening. Tiger said, "Don't worry. Tiger will take care of everything." And Tiger went with Lion to Lion's cave. When he got there, Tiger said, "Hey, who's in Lion's cave?" And Tricky said, "This is my cave now." And Tiger said, "What? I'm Tiger, and I have great big claws to scratch you." And Tricky said, "I tear tigers to pieces." Whoa. Said, "He tears tigers to pieces?" He said, "Well, what kind of an animal tears tigers to pieces?" He said, "Oh man, we better go call Rhinoceros." They went to call Rhino. And when they got there, Rhino was busy taking a mud bath. La, 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 la. "Hey, don't look at me." He told Rhino what was happening, and Rhino said, "Don't worry. Rhino will take care of everything." And Rhino went with Lion to Lion's cave. And he got there, Rhino said, "Hey, who's in Lion's cave, huh?" And Tricky said, "This is my cave now." And Rhino said, "What? I'm Rhino, and I have a great big horn to poke you." And Tricky said, "I flip rhinoceroses." Whoa. Said, "He flips rhinoceroses? What kind of an animal flips rhinoceroses?" They said, "Oh, we better go call Elephant." And so they went to call Elephant. And Elephant was busy taking a nap. And they woke him up. "Hey!" Elephant said, "What's going on?" And they told Elephant what was happening. Elephant said, "Don't worry. Elephant will take care of everything." And Elephant went with Lion to Lion's cave. When he got there, Elephant said, "Hey, who's in Lion's cave?" And Tricky said, "This is my cave now." Elephant said, "What? I'm Elephant, and I have great big feet to step on you." And Tricky said, "I squish elephants." Whoa. Said, "He squishes elephants? What kind of an animal squishes elephants?" The Lion was getting very nervous, and he went over to his cave, and Lion said, "Who are you?" And Tricky said, "I am the bravest, strongest, meanest animal in the jungle, and I'm not afraid of anybody." And Lion said, "Not anybody?" And Tricky said, "Well, somebody makes me afraid." And Lion said, "Who is it?" And Tricky said, "Tricky the Turtle." He said, "Tricky the Turtle?" Said, "Oh man, we better go find Tricky." And he ran off to go find Tricky. He ran out and ran out. And Tricky came out of Lion's cave. He said, "All those animals, they don't even know that it's me. Boy, are they silly." And Tricky went on down to the river to wait. And after a while, Lion found him, and Lion said, "Oh, Tricky, Tricky, you have to help me. You have to help me." And Tricky said, "Me? Help you? A little tiny turtle helping a great big lion? With what?" He said, "Oh, there's an animal living in my cave." And Tricky said, "Why don't you get him out?" Said, "Oh, no. He said that he eats lions, and he tears tigers to pieces, and he flips rhinoceroses, and he squishes elephants." And Tricky said, "How come you think I could take care of him?" He said, "Well, because he said he was afraid of you." Said, "Afraid of me? Why, that's silly." He said, "I know, but please, you have to help." He said, "Oh, all right." So Tricky went with Lion to Lion's cave. When he got there, all the animals were hiding behind the rocks. And Tricky said, "All right, stand back. I'm going in." And Tricky went into Lion's cave. And all of a sudden, the animals heard chomp, 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 chomp. And they said, "Oh, poor Tricky, poor Tricky." But Tricky came out of Lion's cave and said, "Tricky, what happened?" He said, "Oh, that animal. He wasn't very strong at all. I just ate him up." And they said, "What? We don't believe you." He said, "If you don't believe me, go and see." And they went inside, and sure enough, there was no animal in there. And they said, "Tricky, you must be the bravest, strongest, meanest animal in the jungle." And Tricky said, "You know what? I think you're right." And Tricky went home and he smiled a big smile. Because all those animals thought he was brave and strong and mean. But Tricky knew the truth. He knew the only one in Lion's cave was him. And that is the end. Thank you. Now, for our second story. Our next story is a story from France. It's a story about a duck named Quackling. This is Quackling. No. No. Look, we've been over this already. We have to tell the story in English because nobody's going to understand you if you speak duck. No. No one's going to understand the story. No. Look, we have to make them understand the story. We have to tell it in English. All right, fine. You want to try it? Tell it in duck. Go right ahead. See, nobody understands the story because you're speaking in duck. You want to try a different language? Go ahead. Nope. They don't speak cow either because they're children. Okay, we have to tell a story in English. English. Whatever. This is a story from France, the story called Quackling. Once upon a time, there was a duck named Quackling. Quackling was very smart. Quackling was a very hard worker, and Quackling knew a little bit of magic. And because he was smart, because he was a hard worker, and because he knew a little bit of magic, Quackling had a lot of money. In fact, in his house, there was a great big chest filled with gold coins that he had right there. Well, one day a man came down the road whistling a happy tune. He looked into Quackling's window and saw that money. And he knocked on Quackling's door. And he said, "Excuse me, but I'm trying to make my way in the world and I need to borrow some money. Could I please borrow your money so I can make my way in the world? If you let me borrow your money, I will pay you back in 3 months." Well, Quackling was very kind and generous, and he said, "All right, you may borrow my money, but please pay me back in 3 months." And the man said, "No problem." And he took Quackling's great big chest with gold coins and headed off down the road. Well, 3 months went by, and the man didn't pay Quackling his money back. 4 months went by, no money. 5 months went by, no money. 6 months went by, 7 months went by, no money. 8 months went by, 9 months went by, almost a whole year went by, and the man didn't pay Quackling his money back. Well, Quackling was very upset. And one day he was walking through the forest and he heard that familiar whistling tune. And he went to look, and there was a big, beautiful house. And sitting on the porch of that big, beautiful house was the man. And Quackling said, "Hey, that man used my money to make his way in the world. He made his way in the world, and now he's not paying me my money back. I need to get my money back." So Quackling went into his house. He got his great big blue sack and put it over his shoulders. And Quackling said, "Quack, quack, quack, I want my money back." And he headed down the road. And as he was heading down the road, he came across a house. And leaning against the house was a ladder. And the ladder said, "Hey, Quackling, where you going? Where you going?" And Quackling said, "I'm going to the man's house to get my money back." The ladder said, "Hey, can I come too? That'll be really cool. Can I come too, please?" Well, Quackling said, "Sure. It's always good to have lots of friends." And he opened up the sack and he said, "Quack, quack, quack, ladder into sack." And the great big ladder went into the sack. Well, he put the sack over his shoulder and Quackling said, "Quack, quack, quack, I want my money back." And he headed down the road. And as he headed down the road, he came across a river that was flowing. And the river said, hey, Quackling, where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? And Quackling said, I'm going to the man's house to get my money back. And the river said, hey, can I come too? That'll be really cool. Can I come too, please? And Quackling said, sure. It's always good to have lots of friends. And he opened up the sack and he said, quack, 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 river into sack. And the great big river went into the sack. Well, he put the sack over his shoulder and Quackling said, quack, 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 I want my money back. And he headed down the road. And as he headed down the road, he came across a tree, and hanging off the tree was a beehive, and a whole bunch of bees flying around. And the bee said, hey, Quackling, where you going, where you going, where you going? And Quackling said, I'm going to the man's house to get my money back. And the bee said, hey, can we come too? That'd be really cool. Can we come too, please? And Quackling said, sure. It's always good to have lots of friends. And he opened up the sack, and he said, quack, 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 beehive into sack. And the beehive and all the bees went into the sack. Rip. Well, Quackling put the sack over his shoulder, and Quackling said, quack, 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 I want my money back. And he headed down the road, and he got all the way to the man's big rich house, and he knocked on the door. Knock, 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 knock. And the man's servant opened up the door, and he said, yes, what could I do for you? And Quackling said, quack, 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 I want my money back. And the servant shut the door right in Quackling's face. Boom. Hey. Well, Quackling went around to the back door, and he knocked on the back door. Knock, knock, knock. And the servant opened up the door, and he said, yes. And Quackling said, quack, 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 I want my money back. And the servant shut the door right in Quackling's face again. Hey. Well, he went around to the window, and he tapped on the window. Tap, 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 tap. And the servant opened up the window, and he said, yes. And Quackling said, quack, 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 I want my money back. And the servant shut the window. Shunk. Well, the man was in the other room, and the man said, hey, what's going on out there? And the servant said, sir, there is a duck here to see you. And the man was very upset. He knew Quackling came to get his money back, and he didn't want to give Quackling his money back. He said, all right, you go take that duck, and you go throw him in the deep, deep hole out back. And the servant said, yes, sir. And so the servant went and grabbed Quackling and brought him to the deep, deep hole out back and threw him into the hole. And Quackling tried to fly out, but he couldn't quite make it. Well, lucky for Quackling, inside the sack, he had the ladder. And he opened up the sack, and he said, quack, 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 ladder out of sack. And the great big ladder went, and Quackling put the sack over his shoulder and climbed up the ladder. And he got out of the hole. Quackling said, quack, 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 I want my money back. And the man was in the other room, and the man said, hey, he got out of the hole. He said to his servant, that's it. You go take that duck, and you go throw him in the fire. And the servant said, yes, sir. And he went, and he grabbed Quackling. And he took Quackling and brought him on over to the fireplace. And the fire in the fireplace was coming up very high. And he took Quackling and threw him in. And when he was in there, Quackling tried to blow out the fire. But the flames are coming up very high. And Quackling was going to end up being roast duck. Ooh, roast duck. Well, lucky for Quackling, he had the river inside the sack. And Quackling said, quack, 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 river out of sack. And the river came out. And it died out the fire. And it floated away. Well, Quackling stepped out of the fireplace, and Quackling said, quack, 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 I want my money back. And the man said, what? He got out of the fire too? He said, that's it. I'm going to take that duck, and I'm going to squeeze him till he goes squish. And he went to go see Quackling. Quackling saw the man. The man saw Quackling, and Quackling said, quack, quack, quack. But before he could do it, the man took Quackling, and he started to squeeze him. He took him, and he squeezed him. He squeezed him really hard. He kept on squeezing him. He was squeezing him and squeezing him. Well, lucky for Quackling, he had the bees inside his sack. And so Quackling said, quack, 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 beehive out of sack. And the beehive came out, and all the bees came with it. And the bees were in a very bad mood. And the bees started to sting the man. One bee stung the man right in the nose. Ow. One bee got him on the chin. Ooh. One bee got him on the belly. Ow! And one bee even got him right on his backside. Whoa! And the bees started swarming. The man and his servant ran down the road. Wow! They ran to, well, we don't know. They kept going, and they didn't come back. Well, Quackling looked around, and he noticed that that house was very beautiful, and he decided to keep it for himself. And he invited all of his friends to come and stay with him, because after all, it's always good to have lots of friends. And in the end, Quackling was very happy, because quack, 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 he got his money back. And that is the end. All right, our next story now is a story from Ireland. And in this story, you get to help me out a little bit, okay? There's some parts in this story where you guys, right from where you're watching, can help me out. This story is about a puka. Now, a puka is a magic animal in Ireland. He's a very, very magic animal, kind of like a leprechaun or a fairy, things like that. It's a very magic animal. And this is a story called Tom O'Toole and the Puka. Now, this, by the way, is my puka. Hello. How you doing? How you doing? I could tell this story without this puppet, but I like the puppet very much because he's very cute. I'm very cute. Stop it. I'm very cute. Yes, I already said that. I'm very cute. I know you're very cute. Okay, can we just get on with the story? We have to tell the friends the story. Once upon a time, what are you doing? No. I'm telling the story, okay? What? I'm telling the story. Story of Tom O'Toole and the Puka. What's a puka? It's a magic animal. Didn't I just say that? You did. I'm very cute. Stop it. Over there. The story of Tom O'Toole and the Puka. Once upon a time in Ireland, there lived the laziest man you would ever want to meet. His name was Tom O'Toole. Tom O'Toole was very, very lazy. He was so lazy he would spend all day lying in bed, or he'd spend all day lying on the couch. And if he couldn't make it to the couch or the bed, Tom O'Toole would spend all day lying on the floor. And because he was so lazy, his wife Catherine had to do all the work. She had to do all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the chopping, all the lifting, all the moving, all the carrying, all the work indeed. And she'd say, Tom O'Toole, do some work. And he'd say, no. Well, one day, his wife Catherine had to go on a trip. And she said, Tom, I need to go on a trip. Now I'm going to be gone for 4 days. And while I'm gone, I want you to keep this house clean. I've cleaned the house from top to bottom, and I need you to keep the house clean. I left you some food in the refrigerator and some snacks in the cupboard, so you should be all set. But you need to keep this house clean. And he said, okay, wife. Well, she left. And when she did, Tom O'Toole looked up and he said, you know what? I'm just going to stay in bed the whole time. Because if I don't get up, I won't make a mess. And if I don't make a mess, I don't have to clean it up. And so he stayed in bed for a long time. But after a while, Tom O'Toole got kind of hungry. And so he went into the kitchen. He said, all right. I'll have some food, but I will not make a mess. I will not make a mess. You think he made a mess? Oh, yeah, he made a mess. When he ate like a sloth. He got food everywhere, all over the table, all over the chairs, everywhere. He got all the food everywhere. And when he was sat down to watch a TV and have his snacks, he got the crumbs all over the floor. Oh, man. And when he went to bed, he just took off his shirt, took off his pants, threw them in the corner, put on his pajamas, and went to bed. Well, while Tom O'Toole was sleeping, he heard a very strange noise outside of his bedroom door. Eeyaw, eeyaw, clip, clop, clip. Eeyaw, eeyaw, clip, clop, clip. He opened up the door, and there in his house was a donkey. Oh! And Tom O'Toole said, oh no, it's a donkey. Oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to get that donkey out of my house? Then he looked, and the donkey didn't look to be a regular donkey, because the donkey was standing on his back legs like a person. And what was even stranger, the donkey was cleaning the house. And Tom O'Toole scratched his head and he said, oh my goodness, that might not be a regular donkey. That might be a magic animal. That might be a puka. Now, as I told you, a puka is a very magic animal. And indeed, he seemed to be magic because that puka was cleaning the house. Now, here's the part you can help me out with, okay? We're going to clean the house. Now, here's what you do. He cleaned the dishes. Now, you can clean the dishes by going like this. Very good. The puka washed the table. You could wash the table like this. The puka swept the floor. You could sweep the floor like that. He folded up the clothes. You could fold up the clothes like that. And he went out the back door. Whip! Well, Tom O'Toole went back to sleep, and he thought he was dreaming. But when he woke up the next morning, the house was beautiful. It was spotless and clean. He said, oh my goodness, that really was a puka. He said, all right. I got lucky that time, but I need to be better this time. I need to not make a mess. I will not make a mess. You think Tom O'Toole made a mess? Oh, yes, he did. He made an even bigger mess. This time when he ate, didn't even use his fork and knife. He ate with his hands. Got food everywhere, made a whole big mess. And when he sat down to watch a TV and have his snacks, he got the crumbs on the floor and he got the crumbs all over the couch. Oh, man. And when he went to bed, he just took off his shirt, took off his pants, threw them in the corner, put on his pajamas, and went to bed. While Tom O'Toole was sleeping, outside of his door, he heard that strange noise again. Eeyaw, eeyaw, clip, clop, clip. Eeyaw, eeyaw, clip, clop, clip. And he opened up the door, and there was the puka. And the puka was cleaning the house. Get ready, friends. The puka washed the dishes. The puka cleaned the table. The puka swept the floor. He folded up the clothes. And then he went out the back door. Whip! Well, when Tom O'Toole woke up the next morning, the house was beautiful again. He said, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. This is so great. He said, all right. I got lucky that time, but I need to be better this time. I need to not make a mess. I will not make a mess. You think Tom O'Toole made a mess? Oh, yeah. He made an even bigger mess. This time when he ate, he just shoveled the food into his mouth like that. Didn't even use plates, didn't even use dishes. He just got food everywhere. And when he sat down to watch a TV and have his snacks, he got the crumbs on the floor. He got the crumbs on the couch. He even got the crumbs in his hair. And when he went to bed, he just took off his shirt, took off his pants, threw them in the corner, put on his pajamas, and went to bed. While Tom O'Toole was asleep, he heard that sound again. Eeyaw, eeyaw, clip, clop, clip. Eeyaw, eeyaw, clip, clop, clip. He opened up the door, and there was the puka. And the puka was cleaning the house. Get ready. The puka was washing the dishes. The puka cleaned the table. The puka swept the floor. The puka folded up the clothes. And he went out the back door. Whip! Now, when Tom O'Toole woke up, the house was beautiful again. He said, all right. My wife, Catherine, is coming home tomorrow. So today, I need to make sure I keep this house clean. I will not make a mess. I will not make a mess. You think Tom O'Toole made a mess? He made the biggest mess of all. This time when he ate, didn't even use his hands. He ate with his mouth like a dog. And he got food. And when he sat down to watch a TV and have his snacks, he got the crumbs on the floor. He got the crumbs on the couch. He got the crumbs in his hair. He even got the crumbs on the ceiling. How did he get the crumbs on the ceiling? Well, when he went to bed, he just took off his shirt, took off his pants, threw them in the corner, put on his pajamas, and went to bed. But while he was sleeping, Tom O'Toole heard that strange noise again. Eeyaw, eeyaw, clip, clop, clip. Eeyaw, eeyaw, clip, clop, clip. He opened up the door, and there was the puka. Now, Tom O'Toole knew he'd probably never see that puka ever again, and so he wanted to know why he kept cleaning his house. And so he came out of the bedroom. He said, excuse me, but I have a question for you. And the puka turned around and said, yes. He said, I have to know, why do you keep cleaning my house? And the puka said, well, I'll tell you my story. I used to be the laziest man in Ireland, and I worked for an old woman. And the old woman got so angry with me, she put a curse on me and changed me into this puka. And the curse was that I had to keep cleaning people's messes until the curse was lifted. So I've been cleaning people's messes for a long, long time. He said, the other night when I came down the road, I looked in your window and saw how dirty the house was, so I came in and I cleaned it. And the next night, it was even dirtier than that. And the next night, even dirtier than that. And tonight, even dirtier still. So I've been cleaning your house, Tom O'Toole. And Tom O'Toole felt very bad. He said, oh, thank you. Thank you very much. You did such a good job. You did such hard work. And he said those words. The puka started to twist and turn and turn and twist, and he turned back into a man. And Tom O'Toole said, you're a man. He said, oh, yes. The old woman said the curse would be lifted when someone gave me a compliment, when someone told me I did a good job and I did hard work. And because you gave me that compliment, I am me again. He said, thank you, Tom O'Toole. He said, well, I guess I'll be leaving. But Tom O'Toole said, but my house, my house is still a mess. What am I going to do? And he said, well, maybe you should clean it up. After all, you don't want to be the laziest man in Ireland because you don't want what happened to me to happen to you. And he went out the back door. Whoop! And Tom O'Toole looked around and he knew what he had to do. And for the first time in his entire life, he did something he never did before. He cleaned the house. He washed the dishes. He cleaned the table. He swept the floor and the couch and his hair and the ceiling, and finally folded up the clothes and went to bed exhausted. Well, when his wife Catherine came home the next day, she couldn't believe her eyes. The house was beautiful. And she said, oh my goodness, my husband Tom O'Toole finally learned to stop being lazy. And he learned to stop being lazy all by himself. Well, as we all know, it wasn't all by himself he learned to stop being lazy. It was all because of that magic puka. And that is the end. Now, I have one more little story for you. This story is about a goat. This story is called Billy the Gruff Goat. Now, the good part about stories is that if you read a story, if you hear a story, you can make your own story. Now, I like the story of the 3 Billy Goats Gruff. That's one of my favorite stories. So I wrote a story that's a little bit different, and the goat is the problem in the story. You'll see. And this is my goat, Billy. Billy! Stop it. All right, they know your name. We said your name already. Billy! Please stop saying your name. Billy! All right, wait. They know your name is Billy. Billy! Now, this is my goat, Billy. He has 4 big hooves. He has gray and white fur. He likes to eat things. That's my shirt. That's my shirt, Billy. Billy, that's my shirt. Stop. Don't eat my shirt. Hey, don't eat my finger. Stop eating my finger. Stop. Ow. Bad goat.
That's my nose. Sorry. Very sorry. Ow, 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 ow,
ow. Stop it. Bad goat. Bad goat. He has 2 floppy ears, and he has 2 big horns that he likes to give headbutts with. What was that? Do not give me headbutts. You need to stop giving me headbutts. Now, as I was saying, you silly goat, stop doing that. Please stop, Billy. Billy! This story is called Billy the Gruff Goat. Once upon a time, there was a farmer. And the farmer had a great big field. In the middle of the great big field, there was a great big lake of water. So the farmer built a bridge over that lake so all the animals could go across the bridge and go to the other side of the field to eat the grass and eat the flowers. Well, when he built that bridge, along came a goat named Billy. Billy! Stop that. And Billy went on that bridge. And when he went on that bridge, he noticed that that bridge was very wonderful. When he sat there, he could see the whole entire farm. So he decided to keep that bridge all for himself. And he would let anybody go across it. Well, one day along came Pig. And Pig wanted to eat some of that grass. And when Pig got there, Billy looked and Billy said, my bridge, my bridge. My bridge. And Billy ran, head-butted Pig, foink, and Pig went flying in the water. Ah, sploosh. Well, a while later, along came Sheep, and she wanted to eat some of those flowers. And when she got there, Billy looked and Billy said, my bridge, my bridge, my bridge. And Billy ran, head-butted Sheep, foink, and Sheep went flying in the water. Ah, sploosh. Well, a while later, along came Donkey, and Donkey wanted to eat some of the grass. When Donkey got there, Billy looked and Billy said, my bridge, my bridge, my bridge. And Billy ran, head-butted Donkey, poink, and Donkey went flying in the water. Ah, sploosh. Well, after a while, along came Cow. And Cow wanted to eat the grass and eat the flowers because Cow was very hungry. Let's face it, Cow's always very hungry. She's a cow. And she came over and Billy looked and Billy said, my bridge, my bridge, my bridge. And Billy ran, head-butted Cow, poink, and Cow went flying in the water. Sploosh. Well, all the animals were very upset. They all had hurt heads from getting head-butted out. They're all wet from falling in the water, and they're all sad because they couldn't eat the grass and eat the flowers. Well, Chicken was coming by, and when Chicken came by, Chicken looked and said, what's going on? And they told Chicken about Billy, and she said, oh no, this will never do. Someone needs to teach that goat a lesson about sharing. So Chicken went over to the bridge, and when she got there, Billy looked and Billy said, my bridge, my bridge, my bridge. And Chicken said, oh no, I don't want to go across your bridge. I don't need to eat grass. I don't need to eat flowers. I came to warn you. There's another goat trying to get across your bridge right over there." Billy looked in the water and he saw his own reflection. He thought it was another goat, and he looked down, and Billy said, "My bridge, my bridge, my bridge." And Billy jumped down to headbutt that other goat, but when he did, he landed right in the water, sploosh. And what was worse, Billy couldn't swim. "Help, help, help." Well, the animals decided to help him. Pig went in the water. Sheep grabbed hold of pig. Donkey grabbed hold of sheep. Cow grabbed hold of donkey, and they made a chain of animals and pulled Billy out of the water. When Billy got out, he said, "Thank you. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for being so nice." He said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry I've been so mean. I'm sorry I haven't shared. You know what? This is our bridge, our bridge, our bridge." And all the animals smiled. Well, from that day on, they all could go across the bridge and eat the grass and eat the flowers. And everyone was happy. But the happiest one of all was Billy, because he had learned how to share. And that is the end. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the stories. I was Big Joe, your storyteller, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.